but we will share, slides, video with you afterwards. If right now you want, you can go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Maybe say your name, an organization, or how you come to this conversation and what you're interested in getting out of it. Also want to let people know that closed captioning is available, as well as ASL interpretation. Also, do I need to give any further instructions on how to receive the interpretation? No. Okay. Both of those are available. If you have questions, please post them in the chat, and we'll make sure that you get the support you need.
Tanya?
Yes.
Difficulty understanding you.
Difficulty on, should I speak slower, louder?
I'm missing some of your words.
Okay. I will
connection.
try. Oh, connection issue?
I would say not. It's a noise suppression. It's your background noise. But you could switch on the transcription and then you'd be able to read what she's saying.
Okay. Maybe I will pass it to my colleague Nazir to just go over the overview of this conversation while I dial in. And maybe that will help with sound quality. Apologies. Nazir, is that all right with you?
Yes.
1 second.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nazir Jeffries, and I am the program manager for digital equity. And as Tanaya was saying, can everyone hear me clearly? First of all, let me make sure that's squared away.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, thank you again for joining us. And as Tanaya was saying, this is the last of our town halls that we have been conducting over the past couple months to engage, experts in the field on these outcome areas that, we are charged with addressing within our state digital equity plan. So this meeting is not only to discuss, the accessibility of government services for people who have challenges accessing those, but it's to address just your overall challenges in achieving access to affordable and reliable internet as well. So this task force is really to work with you all to put pen to paper on what measurable outcomes should be included in the state's plan as it relates to accessibility of government services. Let's see. So we have breakout rooms that are designed to address certain areas within that accessibility topic. The first one being, self-advocate affinity groups. The second one being veterans, and the third, I believe, are general topics that will be covered within them. Okay, let's see if Tanaya is ready to call in. Looks like she's on. We apologize for the difficulties. I guess I can talk a little bit more about the other task force that we have been conducting over the past month or so. All right, Tanaya, are you ready?
I'm just going to join without video from my app on my phone because the dial-in is not working. So just give me one.
Okay, in the meantime, we're going to have the co-chairs introduce themselves, and the co-chairs are the people who will be leading the discussions centered around those breakout discussions that I just mentioned around affinity groups and veterans and whatnot. So our first co-chair, let's see, first co-chair is Mike Rogers.
Hi, everyone. I am Mike Rogers. I am a regional organizer in the Buffalo area for the Self-Advocacy Association of New York State.
Thank you, Mike. Our next co-chair is Jackie Hayes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jackie Hayes. I'm the Diversity and Inclusion Program Specialist
for the DDPC, which stands for the Developmental Disabilities Planning Council, and very happy to be here today.
Thank you, Jackie. Next, we have Anna DeRosa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna DeRosa. It's so great to see so many people here. I am a program research specialist. I work with Jackie at the Developmental Disabilities Planning Council.
Thank you, Anna. Next, we have Mr. Benjamin Pomerance.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Benjamin Pomerance, Deputy Commissioner for Program Development and Training for the New York State Department of Veteran Services. Looking forward to our conversations today.
All right, next we have Shannon MacColl.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shannon MacColl, Director of Public Information and Policy at the New York State Department of Veteran Services, along with my colleague Benjamin, and looking forward to a fruitful discussion today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Shannon. Next we have Laurie Wheelock.
Good afternoon, everyone. Laurie Wheelock. I go by she, hers pronouns. I'm the Executive Director of the Public Utility Law Project. We are a nonprofit that serves New York State, in particular low-income utility customers. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Laurie. Next, we have Ian Donaldson.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Ian Donaldson. I'm also with PULP and I use he, him pronouns. Really excited for the conversation and thanks again for inviting us.
And last but not least, Ms. Carolyn Bennett-Glada.
Thanks, Nazir. Hi, I'm Carolyn with Southeastern New York Library Resources Council, and I also manage the digital navigators of the Hudson Valley program here in Hudson Valley. So glad to see you all. Anyone who's flying by the seat of their pants is welcome to talk to me because that's how I feel all the time.
Thank you. So yes, those are all of our lovely co-chairs who will be leading the discussions today. I just want to let everyone know that we will introduce a poll of covered populations and organizations that you all work with, just to get a sense of who's in the room. This is really helpful for, after the meeting when we need to synthesize this information. Are we launching that poll now? There we go. It should be up on your screens. And I believe if you're able to choose more than one population, then please do so. All right. Now I will pass it over to Jackie and Mike, who will be framing this discussion for you. So Jackie and Mike, please take it away.
Great, thanks so much. So yeah, we just wanted to say, a big thank you to everyone and acknowledge that we're really building on years of work in digital equity, and many of the people on this call have been involved in that really important and vital work, to increase digital equity across our state. So the ConnectALL office has also recently completed listening sessions in every region of the state, basically to get barriers about people's access to internet, computers, existing community resources, and for, your vision for digital equity. So we do know, based on these listening sessions and the data that's been collected to date, that not everyone has access to broadband. I think, a lot of people on the call are probably aware of that, because that's why you're here, to really advocate around that inequity, especially high quality connections, and that affordability is still a major barrier, even with certain, federal programs like the Affordable Connectivity Program. And we know that certain communities are more impacted by the digital divide than others. It doesn't impact everyone the same. So we want to acknowledge all the work that's already been done to get us here, and really make sure that in the breakout sessions and in our conversations that we dig a bit deeper. And this helps to set us up for more communication and feedback as we move forward. We know that access to the internet and digital skills are increasingly necessary, especially for obtaining government services. So this divide continues to grow for people who don't have enough support around, making those type of connections. And a lot of people really rely on support from the government and government services for their lives and for their own well-being. And I'm actually going to pass it to Mike now to continue kind of framing our conversation for today. So Mike, I will pass it to you.
So we all know about the difficulty of filling out digital forms. I think all of us have dealt with that. And establishing eligibility for services, or finding trusted locations to connect to the internet and get technical support. Who hasn't dealt with that? And we need to fully understand these barriers. We also need to focus on solutions. We want to determine how we can achieve digital equity by creating government services that are accessible to everyone. We also need to discuss the kind of policies that have worked for underserved communities, like people with disabilities, or what has worked for certain programs, and adapt those effective policies to other areas. Why rewrite the book when we have it already written in some ways? The bulk of the discussion today will be in breakout sessions. In your breakout sessions, we will talk about these issues and solutions. But before we get into the discussion, we want to make sure to introduce ConnectALL's mission and Digital Equity Task Force as a whole. I'm going to pass it over to Tanya to talk about that.
Can you hear me?
Tanaya, are you connected now? Yes.
You can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you. Always have to have a last snafu just when you think that you've got so many of these under your belt. But thank you to Nazir and Jackie and Mike for taking the mic. And just want to give a really special shout out to Jackie and Mike for being so instrumental in the designing of this entire town hall. They've been really wonderful collaborators. So thank you so much. Okay, this is maybe my last time giving this presentation, so let's give it a whirl. I'm gonna ask Chelsea to bring up the slides. Perfect. Okay, and next slide, please. Okay, so just so that you get a sense of the agenda, I know that that was a little hectic at the beginning, so I'm going to introduce ConnectALL right now. Then we will go into our breakout session with a brief moment for like a tech overview. So don't worry if you're not sure how to join those breakout sessions. We will be in that conversation for about an hour, and then we'll come back together just to share what happened across the breakout rooms and give you a sense of our next steps. So with that, next slide, please. Okay, so last year, Governor Hochul announced the historic ConnectALL initiative, which is New York's largest investment in its digital infrastructure ever. This is our way of meeting the moment that the IIJA created, that's the infrastructure bill, in allocating unprecedented, once-in-a-generation funding to close the digital divide. The ConnectALL program, as you can see here, includes grant programs, technical assistance, and other support for municipalities, businesses, and community organizations. We're also working on policy innovation and regulatory reform. So together, we feel that we have a lot of different tools to come at this problem of the digital divide. We think we have a holistic approach to really attack every angle simultaneously. And key to that approach is really being responsive to community needs and experiences. So this is why we are, investing so much in stakeholder engagement, and we really think of it as central to the process. Next slide, please. Okay, so we wanted to make sure that we share the principles that we are grounding our work in. These are really just a first draft of principles. We want to know how they resonate with you, but I will go over each of them in turn. So the first is equity. Not only that no New Yorker experiences a barrier to access or well-being because of who they are, but also that there's a shared opportunity that all of you can access that is presented by the internet as it relates to economic and educational benefits, as it relates to government services, and we want to make sure that all of those opportunities are widely shared. The second is performance. We want to make sure that all New Yorkers have access to robust, reliable, and responsive service. And we want you to have a choice in that service. That means the types of plans that are available to you, and also, you know, the providers, of course. Inherent in this principle is that internet users have an understanding of the service that they're entitled to, and that there's clarity in how you would actually advocate for receiving that level of service once you subscribed. And that was one of the main topics of conversation in our town hall meeting on Monday on civic engagement. Okay, so the next principle is affordability. This one is pretty self-explanatory. And I'll just ask anyone to mute if thank you. Okay, so self-explanatory affordability, we want to make sure that you don't have to choose between affording internet and affording other essential services in your budget. And the last principle is safety. So, you know, once we get you online, we want to make sure that you can thrive in that online environment. That means that you have an understanding of the privacy that you're entitled to, you feel secure, you know, you're not susceptible to scams, and that you feel comfort and excitement about being online. So again, these principles are a first draft. We want to know how we should apply them to your local context, how we should measure progress towards realizing these principles in your community. And, you know, if any of these are not resonating with you, or if there are additional principles that you think we should be grounding our work in, that would be a great thing to surface today. Next slide, please. So what we are tasked with is a very tall order. In our office, we're extremely motivated by the fact that this is perhaps our country's most ambitious exercise in participatory planning. When you think about other infrastructural investments like rural electrification and building highways, those were never done with this imperative about speaking with every affected population and making sure that their input is heard and incorporated into the plan. So next slide, please. We have to create a state digital equity plan that will guide our digital equity investments. And we are required by the federal government, as laid out in the Digital Equity Act, to consult with a number of covered populations. These include low-income households, aging individuals, incarcerated individuals, veterans, people with disabilities, people with language barriers, members of racial and ethnic minority groups, and rural inhabitants. And so the conversation today is really centered on those covered populations. So if you identify as one of those covered populations, we want to hear from you. If you serve one of these covered populations, we want to hear from you. But there's also a whole other set of stakeholders that we'll also be engaging with, because these are the really important players in the internet ecosystem and making sure that everybody has access to affordable and reliable internet. And so these include ISPs, obviously, internet service providers, as well as community anchor institutions, civil rights organizations, local, county, regional governments, tribal nation governments, and we are consulting with all of those groups as well. You can find notes from past consultations, as well as a schedule for upcoming engagement on our website, which is broadband.ny.gov. Next slide, please. The plan will also consider how digital equity can improve outcomes in 5 key areas. And so those areas are health, workforce development, education, civic and social engagement, and today's topic, the accessibility of government services. We have partnered with the New York State Library to convene a digital equity task force. And that task force coordinates expertise from across the state government agencies, as well as across the field, to bring all of that expertise to bear on our state digital equity plan. Each of the subcommittees you see listed here is chaired by a combination of state government experts as well as experts in the field. And we have hosted public meetings to dive into all of the topics that relate to how we can improve outcomes in each of these areas if we achieve greater digital equity. We welcome you to review the notes from these past meetings, as this is our final a town hall meeting for the summer and during the drafting phase of the plan. We'll also return to this task force structure and host additional town halls to get feedback on the plan once we release it for public comment. Next slide. So to give you a broader sense of all the engagement that the ConnectALL office is doing, we completed listening sessions in every region of New York. The slides and summary notes from each session are on our website. And if you look at them, you'll start to get a sense of the variation by region and also the themes that emerge and cut across every region of the state. And, you know, the topics that were covered include barriers to digital equity, opportunities that people want to be able to realize if there's greater digital equity, and really zeroing in on needs and plans that we need to incorporate into the state digital equity plan. I also want to flag that we will be having, if you're downstate in the New York City area, we will be having borough-based listening sessions in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island coming up in the next several weeks. And those are all available on our website as they become finalized. Additionally, we partnered with digital equity coalitions to collect more insights from communities. They convened over 40 focus groups across the state, and each of those focus groups was dedicated to one of the covered populations that I listed. And so that was a chance to really hear from lived experts about their experiences. We also completed a statewide survey. That was our primary vehicle for collecting quantitative data during the planning process, and we received over 5,500 responses to that survey. And finally, we're collecting submissions for what will become a publicly available asset inventory that New Yorkers can use as a directory for digital equity services and providers. We are, culling through, I think we have over 900 assets across the state, and we are organizing them and cleaning them to make sure that they're an accurate representation of the services that are available. Last but not least, as I previewed before, we have a series of virtual forums for different stakeholders, and we have had some already. I think our next one is on resilience and cybersecurity, and again, that is on our website, which is broadband.ny.gov. Okay, last slide. Finally, this is a timeline to give you a sense of what we'll be up to through the end of the year and how you can contribute. So we are in the drafting phase right now. We will have the draft digital equity plan available for public comment in the fall. We are targeting October for the release of that plan. And after that plan is released, we will come back to you and show you where your input landed in the plan. We will do that via virtual forums, via town halls like this one. We'll also, be coordinating across with all of our partners about special in-person reviews of the plan and things like that. Again, go to our website. But we have all your emails now too, so we'll make sure that you get that information. We will refine that plan based on your feedback and submit the final version of the plan at the end of the year. And then it is, somewhat up to our federal partners, but once they approve that plan, we can begin implementing, and that's code for getting money out to the field at the beginning of 2024. So I just want to emphasize again that we're so thankful for your support and joining us in this extremely long engagement journey to getting to a plan that we're all proud of and excited to execute. We know that we're building from the work that many of you have done for years and in some cases decades. We're really thankful in New York to be building from that strong foundation. It just means that we are ahead and we get to really commit to building your capacity over the long term. And we're also, if you're new to this, you don't know what digital equity is, we're really excited to have you joining the work as well, because we need your new ideas and your energy. And we really think that that combination of, the deep expertise and strong ecosystems in New York, as well as the new energy is going to lead to our success in the state. So again, thank you all so much for being here. And I believe that I am passing this off to Kaylee to do a quick tech overview before we get into our breakout discussions.
Yeah, thanks, Tanaya. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaylee Estuesta. I'm helping run tech on the Zoom meeting today. And so as we have mentioned earlier, we have 4 breakout rooms today that all of you will be able to select which room you'd like to join. And we have the first 2 for specific folks in the call who might identify with either of these groups. So breakout session number 1, we have Mike Rogers, Jackie Hayes, and Anna DeRosa facilitating a conversation for a self-advocate affinity group. So if you identify as a self-advocate, we'd ask that you join that room, and we have some discussion questions specifically around that identity and tailored towards that. So that's group number 1. Group number 2 is the veterans group. So if you self-identify as a veteran, or perhaps even you work with veterans, or there's a veteran in your life, it doesn't have to be your own personal identity. I think anyone who's interested in that conversation and talking about accessibility of government services as it pertains to veterans, how it impacts veterans, and you might have some something to add to that conversation, we welcome you into breakout group number 2, which will be facilitated by Benjamin Pomerance and Shannon MacColl. And so that's number 1 and number 2. So for breakout groups number 3 and 4, that's for a wider audience. If you don't identify or want to speak maybe to different experiences than the first 2, we invite you to join either groups 3 or 4. Everyone will have the chance to self-select. And so as long as we try to keep groups 3 and 4 roughly the same size, I think that should be good. Some other reminders. So before, I'm going to open the rooms in a second, but before we talk about how to select your breakout room, let's talk a little bit about how you can interact in the conversation on Zoom. So we'll have our facilitators in there, as well as some other staff on the call helping to support. And so we just invite you to just make sure you check your bottom Zoom controls on the bottom of your Zoom window, and you have the mute and unmute button. So just so that we can hear each other and everybody's audio is clear. If you're not speaking, if you could just make sure you're muted, and then feel free to just go ahead and unmute, and the facilitators should be watching out for your video and seeing that you're unmuted and that you have something to share with the question. Another helpful Zoom tool is also on the bottom panel. You have your reactions button. And so the reactions, there's a very helpful raise hand feature. So if you click the reactions, you'll also see a raise hand. We also encourage participants to use the raise hand function if you have something to add, and that way the facilitator will see you and can call on you, and you can unmute when they are ready to hear your answer. Besides that, I want to make sure that the note takers, that you guys record your breakout sessions so that people who weren't able to join us today can still see how the conversation went. And I think maybe my final note is our amazing sign language interpreters, Alita and Kim, will be joining breakout group number 1. And so if you would like to continue to utilize the interpretation services, please just make sure you join breakout group number 1. All right, so I'm going to open the rooms right now. But unless anybody of the other co-chairs or Tanaya has anything else to add before we break up.
Thank you, Kaylee. I just wanted to add this, Tanaya. If you are still confused about how to join a breakout group, that's totally fine. Just sit tight as folks self-select into the groups. We can also send you to a group if you let us know either in the chat or by coming off mute. So if you want to just wait for a moment, we can make sure to get you to the right place. But I think we're ready to open the breakout discussions. Have great conversations, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Benefits in this country. There's more veterans benefits available now and more services now than ever before in this country's history. And yet so much of it is offered online. And we heard from many people in the room about how difficult it can be for just simply accessing that because somebody lives in a rural area where wireless is not happening, where somebody lives in an area where they're still using dial-up, right? And in urban areas as well, they are not immune to these challenges. It's not just a rural thing. So we talked about that. But then we also talked about the education side that's been mentioned in the last room as well, it sounds like, about the importance of providing opportunities to a wide variety of media for individuals to learn about how to utilize technology and to also gain confidence in that utilization. Shannon made the point that was agreed with by many people in the room that a lot of times people can do this stuff technologically, but they lack the confidence that they can. Oh, I'm of a certain age group, so I can't do it. Or I've never done it before and it's too scary and new. And so providing opportunities where veterans can get together with other veterans throughout New York State to learn tech together and kind of have that unit cohesion or that cohort sensibility together to learn different aspects of technology, that can be a great way to advance the ball forward in this area. And we talked about how one possible opportunity for this is the brick and mortar veteran service organizations that exist around New York State. American Legion Post, Veterans of Foreign War Post, Disabled American Veterans Councils, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one member of our room made the point that many of these organizations are declining right now in terms of membership. And this could be a great opportunity for these organizations to provide a brand new avenue of access to their posts and a brand new layer of visibility and viability in their communities to say, hey, we're a place where a veteran can go to access internet, to have their telehealth appointment or to file their claim or to meet with a veteran service officer online. Or we're a place that can host some of these educational opportunities as well when it comes to veterans being together, learning these tech skills, so that way the device that they have does not just become something they put on the bookshelf to gather dust. With that, Shannon, what did I miss? I'm sure there's something.
No, that was a pretty good synopsis and pretty brief for the lawyer.
Pretty brief. It's rare too.
Very impressive.
I'm the long-winded guy here.
I'll just add that sort of to Benjamin's point, we talked about that in rural areas, the issue is sort of accessibility when it comes to digital equity, and in urban areas, it is affordability, which I think is a very clear and streamlined way of breaking that down of what barriers need to be addressed. Also, the idea of how mobile applications and specifically smartphones and tablets have an important role to play into digital equity, not just can you get onto a website. Everything has a mobile app these days. And so making sure that those are accessible and usable for the folks that are accessing them. And of course, the distribution of the physical assets, right? Whether it be a tablet, whether it be a smartphone that has the capabilities to fill out forms and such, that those are also areas that need to be addressed in a way that maybe we're not always thinking about when it comes to equity in the digital space.
Thank you both so much. Yeah, when I was in your room, I heard I feel like the message came through about the importance of like the affinity group, making sure veterans can connect with one another when they're learning because they have that shared experience. So thank you so much for those insights. Next, can we hear from Laurie and Ian in room 3?
Yes, so room 3 had very lively discussion. I'm just going to do some high level overview, kind of removing any topics that were discussed by the other breakout rooms, but really kind of addressing at the beginning the problems and almost this disconnect that is created having everything move online. It's an unintended consequence that we are seeing. Things actually can become more difficult in some cases. People are encouraged to apply online, but then things may get lost or there's no confirmation. So then they apply in person or they have to reapply. And so some ways, we have to tighten that up because there is a lot of concern and potential confusion. It's also a flaw to migrate completely to technology. There should always be a human connection there for assistance, to provide comfort, to assist with empowerment versus, leaving that individual feeling vulnerable. Unconscious bias of people working within our state social service agencies, and again, kind of relying maybe too much on the technology. There just not being enough outreach and education materials in languages that are necessary for, our communities to feel comfortable. So language access is something we talked a lot about, and also technology access, difficulty with screen readers, not having those services when you do go to the government agencies. And so there needs to be kind of this balance that is important. And so switching into solutions and policies really quickly, a theme that we discuss a lot is Google Translate is not enough. Supporting our community-based organizations, those in the community who speak the language, who have the experience, supporting them, hiring them, and making sure that they're involved in the conversations. The materials themselves, making sure that when we're out there, they're again, digital equity information, applications are language appropriate and also respectful, that we're not using cartoons or things that maybe are demeaning when read, and not using overly complex language, but again, striking an important balance of language that helps people understand what their rights are and what how they can go about getting the benefits. Friendlier customer service, always making sure that the phone option is available, social media, and again, just kind of looking at our government offices and making sure that they're welcoming and open and supportive of language and technology needs. And then we ended on two final themes, one of which is what are other states doing? And there was a lot of interesting highlights to Minnesota, Hawaii, what is San Francisco doing? So we made sure to keep those in the notes. And then we ended with eligibility and just are our programs and the eligibility requirements really then getting to the people who ultimately need it? Low income is very low income, and we may be missing a lot of people that need those benefits. So just to take a pause, I wanted to thank breakout room number 3, just to see, Ian, do you want to add anything on my summary?
No, I think that was a good high level perspective. Thanks, Laurie. And again, thank you everybody that participated in breakout room 3.
Yes, thank you everyone.
Thanks, Laurie. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, when I was in your room, I felt like that last principle that I covered really made, really resonated, which was that safety is not just privacy, it's security. It's not enough to do the digital transformation. You really have to put in the social supports to make sure that there's comfort and fluency online. So thank you for highlighting that. Carolyn, you have a tough job because I know everyone else gave a lot of overview, but can you share what happened in the 4th room?
Yeah, digital equity, we need more of it, the end. No, just kidding. I just think it's interesting that room 3 also got into discussion about Google Translate. We had a pretty robust chat going on the side about the pros and cons of Google Translate. So something to keep in mind. And again, I also want to thank room 4. There was so much great conversation. And again, a lot of it is on the Jamboard. So just the opening question was just visualizing what the world would look like if we had achieved our digital equity goals. And it all kind of boils down to universal access and training. And we talked a lot about the need for training and digital skills and just communicating what already exists as far as services that are available currently, and communicating what more we need is a huge part of the work that we need to be undertaking at the moment. Education and outreach across the board. Of course, cost is always a barrier. There's a lot of infrastructure needs and the places where digital equity and transportation intersect is important, especially as we're talking about all of our rural and mountainous areas in the state. Yeah, we talked about the language barrier. And I think another important thing that I don't know if anyone else mentioned is that when it comes to accessibility, there isn't a catch-all solution. It's a constantly evolving process. There's not a day where you're going to sit back and be like, we are now accessible. Accessibility needs are going to be different for every individual person who has them. So I think being open to being flexible and having the resources available to change if you need to improve your accessibility to serve some of your population is a key thing to keep in mind. So that's, yeah, we talked about a lot of the other same things. Again, thanks to everyone. I appreciate all of your thoughts and your input.
Thank you, Carolyn. That's a great point, because I think at the very end, we were hearing from a representative from a city government that was saying, you know, there's a good amount that can be standardized, but you have to remember that the accessibility needs will continue to evolve. And that's something that we really have to think about, because we have one-time funding. So we have to think about what the sustainability model looks like for any of the transformations that we support. So thanks for raising those really important points. Well, everyone, it's been a really rich, almost 2 hours. Thank you so much for being here. Just want to add just a couple of next steps. So this is our last town hall meeting. I'm really glad we ended on this one, because it really pulled together so many of the themes from our 6 months plus of stakeholder engagement. So you all are right on the money. We will be taking all of this data that you've given us and incorporating it into our state digital equity plan. We will share out slides and video from this specific meeting. We're also working on summaries from across the town halls that we will make sure you all have access to. And we'll send them out directly, and then we can also make sure that you know where to find them on our website, which again is broadband.ny.gov. We are slowing down just a little bit over the next couple of weeks in terms of our stakeholder engagement. We really need to be processing all of our data and getting it into the draft plan, but we will come back to you in October. And so again, we're targeting October for the release of the draft state digital equity plan, at which point there will be a formal public comment period where we want to hear what we got right, what we need to elaborate, and we'll continue to refine that plan throughout the fall. So we're really thankful to have you all as partners in this work, and you'll be hearing much more from us throughout the fall. Thank you again, and hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Oh, and one last thing, there'll be a feedback survey that pops up as this Zoom ends. If you want to share, how the Zoom went for you, it's always helpful for us as we continue to work on our stakeholder engagement. So thank you again, really appreciate your time, and hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks so much.